Don't like big late places. That's why I get there early.
All right, where's the
Willy,
plan?
willy, 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 bum, 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 willy, willy. Oh, Hobbit, you're not serious because you say the Willy Bum Bum song.
Did you do a reading of the Willy Bum song?
I did a reading of Willy Bum Bum, all of its lyrics. It was a very serious reading.
I was just sat there pissing myself, and I think I was the only one.
It was heartfelt.
Really insulted it.
Silly old wasp.
Stung my bum. Now my bum has gone really numb. Willy Bum Bum. Willy Bum Bum.
Willy
Willy Bum.
Bum.
Carlo Dom.
Right, Hobbit, you're up. It's you.
Lizard people. What's all that about then? Who's this thing I keep hearing
people,
about?
how do they work?
I mean, does anybody know? Do even the lizard people know how they work?
I don't know.
In summary, there was a chap called Carl Ardom. He was a targeted individual, or he is a targeted individual, and decided he couldn't take it anymore and shot a man named Tim. What was his name again? Tim something or other, son? Unfortunately, my notes have disappeared. They got deleted.
Have you not
Thanks.
just done the Carl Odom? How do you spell it? He's got a
Odom.
Wikipedia page, hasn't he?
So anyway, he shot
Legendary
this.
Stardust Cowboy.
He shot this bloke in the head, whose name's Tim, and then the day after this guy's been shot in the head, which to you and me would be fatal, goes out of hospital, not a single wound on his face, and now is in the Idaho House of Representatives. David Icke also mentions lizard people. He saw Ted Heath once in the changing room, who changed before his eyes, and he said he felt like he was being scanned.
Are you
He
literally
was
going to
completely
just
human.
set fire to all of your content in the first 5 seconds, are you?
I'm giving a summary before we get into it.
Oh, it's Kyle Odom. I thought you said Carl Odom. I'm looking for the wrong person.
Kyle Odom.
Is Carl's
yeah,
mum,
no.
is Carl's mum a bitch?
So no, that's Broflovski.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, different Kyles. Have you seen this Kyle? Because I haven't seen a picture of him yet.
Isn't he about this tall and he's over there?
Yeah, that's usually what happens. House of Representatives, is that the one? There's name and be in there? No, it's
Kyle
not.
Andrew Odom is an American attempted murderer and conspiracy theorist convicted to 25 years in prison for the shooting of pastor and Idaho House of Representatives member Tim Remington.
That's the one, Tim Remington. Yes,
Yeah.
Tim Remington is not a wild human being. He's an android or a lizard people. But I can read because Kyle wrote a manifesto. So if we want to know what's it all about, we can read it in his own words. It will take me a while to read, about half an hour or so. So shall I get stuck into it?
It gets stuck in. Is this about
You're
someone who
right.
just wants a house in the Alps and smoking up wife?
No, because this guy's not Fico. No, it's past 7 o'clock, so but we are live now. Carl Odom. This bit's in the first person, even though it's written by him. Born and raised in North Idaho, grew up in a loving family, joined the Marine Corps after high school. Developed an interest in science, went to school for a degree in biochemistry, won numerous scholarships and awards, graduated magna cum laude, then got invited into a prestigious university to work on genetics. And then there's a link which doesn't work here. It says check my personal documents. As you can see, I'm pretty smart. I'm also 100% sane, 0% crazy. Which is a bold statement, but we'll get into that. Why will we get into that? Why did he do it? Again, this sort of doing the stuff in the third person, which I don't understand. My life was ruined by an intelligent species of amphibian humanoids from Mars. I wish I was joking. Keep reading. So this is a bullet point. Bulleted item list summary. They were here long before we ever existed. Their technology is millions of years more advanced than ours.
Well,
I've seen them.
This is one of the theories with lizard people. It's much like that the character in Doctor Who, the lizard race from Doctor Who that live within the Earth. We just kind of they went under, we came about, and they've just realised we're here or something.
So, technology is millions of years more advanced than us. I see them do things that defy all comprehension. They have a massive breeding stock of humans, which they breed and control from birth. They use these humans to live vicarious lives amongst us. They appear to be completely normal because they're good at imitating human behaviour. See Martian technology for an explanation on this. The actual Martians live deep underground here and inside of the moon. They take control of wild human beings and use them as sex slaves. Don't believe me? Ask President Obama to take a lie detector test on this one. They try to take
a sidebar, Hobbit.
A sidebar.
Yeah, are you aware of Gemma Collins, the fat blonde bird that was in Towie?
No.
Gemma Collins has insisted lizard people are secretly living on Earth and travel around in a network of underground tunnels. The 39-year-old star said, "I believe there are lizards living among us. Do these humans who appear to be humans and look like us and act like us go into the tunnels where their human faces, their human bodies, do they retract back into being lizards when they go into the tunnels?" In the comments that had echoes of conspiracy theorist David Icke, she added, "There's been so many reports there are different kinds of species living in the UK and all around the world. I want to meet you, I want to touch you, I want to smell you, I want to know more, but I'm not scared about this.
I want to be like you, boo 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 boo. I want to talk like you, shooba doo doo. Walk like you, talk like you, assimilate you."
Speaking on her BBC podcast, she added, "I'm not letting this tunnel life go. I personally need my own tunnels. Where will we ever get to see these secret tunnels? Who's in these tunnels? Can you get food and drink and a glass of champagne in these tunnels?" Earlier in the podcast, she spoke about her belief that royals, including the Queen, are shuttled about in secret passages below London. The Sun Online revealed yesterday that Gemma was due to jet out to China to film for a new reality show, but had to scrap the plans due to coronavirus. She explained, "I was supposed to be going to China this month, but with the coronavirus, don't want to risk it. Then again, when it's your time, it's your time."
This sounds like the Queen of Hearts, Jade Goodall.
She's like that, but imagine her like more fat and whingy.
Okay, so the actual we said about that. They try to take me, but they're unable to control my mind. They've been following me ever since. I've tried everything to get my life back. I begged, I bargained, I threatened. Everything I tried to do was sabotaged. I attempted suicide twice, but they stopped me both times. My last resort was to take actions that would bring this to the public's attention. Read my story to them, what happened to me and why they targeted me. My story, spring 2014, Moscow ID. Everything I'm reading this verbatim, so if none of this makes sense, then it's, this is what was written. Everything started whilst I was at University of Idaho. Spring 2014 was my final semester, and I was taking a heavy course load. See transcript.
What the fuck is a semester? Why can't they say term? Is it a term?
It's a term, yeah.
Why can't they say it's fucking Yanks?
Because they have to be difficult about things. I was very stressed due to the intensity of my schedule, so I searched for a way to cope. I discovered meditation, which seemed to help, so it became part of my daily routine. As I learned more about meditation, I became interested in consciousness. We have to do this story later, right? Just as an aside, DMT elves are racist, and all I can think of is just Beavis laughing whenever certain demographics take DMT. Beavis is an elf going, "You don't belong here." Anyway, you discover
Speaking
meditation.
of don't belong here, do you want to hear about the celebrity lizard people? Famous faces linked to conspiracy after Gemma Collins' admission.
Well, we'll get to that because I've just remembered a name called Kathy Griffin. Have you heard of Kathy Griffin?
Yeah, is she the one that held the headless?
No, I'm
troll?
thinking of someone different. Friends with David Icke talks about lizard people.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't think I know her.
Oh, right, okay.
Who's the Griffin I'm thinking of? That horrible fucking wrinkly bitch.
Yeah, that's the one as well. That's Kathy Griffin too. So maybe I'm thinking maybe her name's not Kathy Griffin, but I'll type in Kathy Griffin and David Icke and see what comes up. As I learned more about meditation, I became interested in consciousness and our ability to affect it. I kept working on my meditation techniques and began achieving extreme states of consciousness. By the way, it has been people like meditation's not as benign as people make it out to be. You can encounter some creatures which aren't just your own thoughts in there. There's continuing
like yoga. Don't do yoga. It's Satanism.
Yeah, it is actually. You're practicing Kundalini awakening. It's continuing to counter another being through meditation. It happened one night in February 2014, and it was the most profound experience I've ever had. I was lying in bed meditating, and suddenly left my physical body. I entered a space that was completely dark and had no awareness of my physical boundaries or orientation. I felt very peaceful there until the light blue began to approach me. Sorry, until the blue light began to approach me. As the blue light got closer, I realized it was another being. When I was in the being's presence, I felt an immediate sense of wrongdoing. It felt like I was being told, you shouldn't be here, dumbass. I instantly conceded and felt guilty. Then I began to distance myself from the being. This had an impact on them and seemed to change their mind about me. The moment I began to distance myself from the being, I became overwhelmed by a feeling I could only describe as unconditional love. During this part of the experience, our minds became connected, and I saw that the being was female. I then began to feel the most euphoric, comforting, and blissful feelings I've ever felt. It was incredibly powerful and life-altering. Next thing I knew, I woke up, I had tears in my eyes, and I couldn't get out of bed. I felt a profound sense of loss, like I just lost someone close to me.
Meditating with tears in my eyes.
Is that a song? A few minutes later...
with tears in my eyes, it's Ultravox, I bet.
Okay.
You know,
a few minutes
dancing with tears in my eyes. You know that one?
Actually, I think I do.
Yeah.
A few minutes later, the experience left my mind against my will, and I went about my day. After that, I had no urge to
meditate. Another one. Where is my mind? Where is my
Oh, yeah, the Pixies.
Yeah.
I had no urge to meditate at all. Every time I even thought about meditation, the thought was stripped from my mind. When I finally did try meditating again, I was unable to...
How did he know he thought about meditation if the thought was stripped from his mind?
Well, imagine you're about to do something and then, you get distracted easily.
Yeah, but the thing is, you do that, don't you? You're standing in front of the fridge. You've got no idea what you were looking for, and it never comes back to you sometimes, does it?
Isn't it a bit like dreaming? Like, you have this dream, and it's incredible, but, by afternoon, you've forgotten it.
Mm.
The remainder of the semester...
Like when you're having a poo at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you've suddenly, solved life, the universe, and everything. You go back to bed, and by the morning, it's gone.
My poos last a few seconds at best, so I don't get enough time to think.
Do you not like a session on the pot? Going for a poop is an event, Hobbit. It's not just go. You don't just go there and just squeeze it out. It's an event, Hobbit.
I Jenny, my toilet's very cold and unheated. I try to minimise it to be as quick as possible. It's not a comfortable experience. Ultimately, I decided to give up meditation's focus on the classes. The remainder of the semester became exceedingly easy for me. I felt like
the Oxford speed clogger, Hobbit. Is this Carl Oddom? Is this the voice of Carl Oddom talking?
Yes, it is. The remainder of the semester became exceedingly easy for me. I felt tapped into some kind of power. I was exerting no mental effort, even though the class...
Quinson knows what it's all about. Take the Sunday supplement in.
Oh, okay. I was exerting no mental effort.
Do you not refer to books as logbooks, Hobbit?
I was exerting no mental effort, even though the class had been extremely difficult before. I also began to have complex thoughts and a depth of understanding I'd never reached before. About a month later, I started interviewing at
That's because
graduate
he'd been
schools.
possessed. They
Yeah,
weren't he wasn't having his own thoughts.
well, it's funny you mention that because I'm thinking this is the bit where we get into synthetic Oh God, okay. Tropico is distracting because there's people and they talk to you and they demand things. Yeah, synthetic telepathy. We'll get into it.
Alphabet Cat said she needs some sort of log burning stove in there to keep you warm.
There's not enough room. Genuinely, it's just one of those things you just grin and bear it. I think the best thing could be like some sort of heated bog seat, but then you'd have to like have a battery pack, and I can't be bothered to do that level of. It's not worth it. Look, I grin and bear it. If it's really bad, I'll use the upstairs bog, which has got a wooden seat, and that's not as bad. The remainder of the semester, yeah, I said that bit. A month later, interviewing. Shortly after the interviews were done, I started receiving offers. I decided to accept the offer from Baylor College of Medicine to work on a PhD in human genetics.
Am I right in thinking that
You're
Baylor
thinking
is
of Baylor.
is Baylor some sort of No, isn't Baylor a dignitary from somewhere? Is it on a science fiction program? But the problem is I can't even remember which science fiction program, so I'm not helping much.
Well,
but I'm sure.
Sounds a bit like.
Go on then.
It sounds a bit like Baylor, but
no.
So
there is someone. I'm sure there's someone like a visiting dignitary.
Whilst
on, like,
you have a think about
I'm not going to
that.
remember because I just can't. I can't even.
Have a think about it. So you'd want to do human genetics. I was very excited about the opportunity to work on such a prestigious university. The future looked bright, and I couldn't wait to get started. July 2014 to October, Houston TX. Everything changed once I started the program. The moment I arrived...
Where is the planet Houston?
Houston.
Do you remember that? That's Superman 2. Are you from the planet Houston? Do you not remember that?
I can't remember. No, I can't remember the Superman films. The moment I arrived...
Terence Stamp delivers that line.
I could see flaws in every professor's research. My mind was so expanded that I could instantly understand the implications of the entire research projects. Oh, there's a big spider on my wall. That's nice. This caused me to become very concerned about what I was doing, and I felt like I was wasting my time. I voiced my concerns to my advisor, and he casually brushed them aside. He told me, just have fun. It'll be fun. I kept trying to get motivated, but things continued to get worse. I started seeing flaws in the foundations of genetics and other fields. It got to the point where I couldn't stop thinking about them. To make things, by the way, in this manifesto, none of that's explained. To make things worse, no one else seemed to care, which really bothered me. All these issues made it impossible for me to continue, so I decided to leave. The day after I decided to leave, my life became a living hell. I couldn't sleep and my mind felt sapped. I was entirely at peace with my decision, so I knew something strange was happening to me. After a few days of this, 2 of the graduate students began reaching out to me. These things have been crossed out.
See, this reminds me of something. You know, I said that perhaps he's been possessed. Have you ever noticed there are never follow-up interviews with people who are possessed? They never describe how it feels, what the signs are, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, blank and blank.
Oh, is he the guy who threw the laptop to Obama?
Well, a letter was written to Obama. I don't know. We're finding out together, aren't we?
Oh, we're doing it now. Global Diversity Coalition.
I barely knew them, so it seemed unusual they would contact me. When I went to see them, they both kept pointing their finger at me and saying "pew pew 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 pew," like they were shooting a gun. Oh, they weren't making laser pew-pews.
They were finger banging him. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, they did this over and over, and I kept wondering what their problem was. Months after I left Houston, I was told that Eugene and Brandon were not human. They were tasked with making me into the next school shooter, as they called it. I imagine this is why many of our school shootings take place. Anyway, things slowly improved after I stopped talking with After I stopped talking with blank and blank, although Eugene and Brandon aren't blanked out, so I assume it's Eugene and Brandon. Well, anyway, blank and
Let's go,
blank, but I was
Brandon.
mentally exhausted. I tried to figure out what to do in my life, but I could hardly think. Eventually, I left Texas and started applying for jobs all over the country. A few months later, things took a strange turn. OC 214-ORG 215 CDA ID. In spring 2015, I finally secured an interview with a food company. I thought I was about to get something going in my life, but I was wrong. I couldn't sleep at all the night before my interview. I actually stayed awake the entire night, which had never happened to me before. I looked unrecognisable in the mirror the next morning, and my mind felt sapped worse than it had in Charleston. Needless to say, the interview did not go well. I couldn't think and had extreme difficulty with normal conversation. After the interview was over, I suddenly felt fine and looked perfectly normal. I slept great that night, then made my way to the airport the next morning. This is where the story gets weird. On the plane ride back home, my seat was taken. I asked the flight attendant, she directed me to a new seat. Once I sat down, an older gentleman in front of me kept glancing back until he got my attention. As he kept looking back, my head began to hurt and tingle. The moment my head began to hurt, his lips curled up into this evil-looking smile. The pain and tingling in my head continued for the rest of the flight and got more intense as time went on. Every time I felt it, the moment I started taking notes in a notepad. About halfway through the flight, someone else in front of me held up a newspaper that said psychic reading for like 5 minutes straight. It was blatantly obvious they were doing something to me.
Has he
but
not tried? What he should have done is, well, doesn't he take notes back?
Yeah,
Get a pad.
well,
You get a pad. You look at these people. You write everything down about them just to see how they like it.
I often start wondering with these people just how much agency they have. So, that sounds like a worthwhile thing to do, but I don't carry notepads around with me. So
Yeah, because obviously you have this first thing, don't you? So it's going to carry on. Then always carry a notepad with you. Just write down the date, description of the person, see how they look.
Yeah. So 5 minutes straight, it was blatantly obvious they were doing something to me, but I didn't know what. Once we landed, the older gentleman kept showing me his track phone as if to say, "Get one of these." I assume that's some sort of brand.
Fucking yikes. No. Is it TRAC in it?
And then FONE. So I can't highlight any of this PDF. I had applied to several government agencies before this happened, so I thought this might be their way of contacting me. Out of curiosity, I decided to go and buy...
It could literally be anything. I mean, they do all sorts. Smartphones, Blackberries, flip phones. It could literally be anything. So track
out of curiosity,
mean anything.
I decided to go and buy a track phone. I checked it every day to see if anyone messaged or called. About a month later, I got a text message from a man named John Padula. He invited me to come to church at the altar. It seemed like a strange place to be recruiting for government jobs, but I went anyway. After I got there and went inside, something felt very wrong. I felt as if my life was in danger and became so uncomfortable I had to leave. A couple of days later, I started receiving text messages from Tim Remington. At first, they were innocuous Bible messages, but then he started threatening me. He sent messages talking about their power and other things. He did all of this through Bible verses so it wouldn't look suspicious. I ignored everything until he sent one final text message which simply said angels. I thought nothing of it until helicopters started flying around my house all day and night. At this point, I knew I was in trouble. I knew I needed to contact them, so I made an appointment to meet John Padula for coffee. Little did I know, he had no intention of meeting me. After making the appointment to meet John, something very bizarre happened. I received the most unnatural blank I ever had. It felt as if someone was manually pumping blood into my blank. I don't know how else to describe it. Immediately after that, a song began playing in my mind. The lyrics went, "Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We want to make him stay up all night." I had never heard this song before and had no idea what it meant. I tried to ignore it and kept searching for jobs. A few minutes later, the song quit playing. Nothing else happened until I tried to go to sleep that night. As soon as I got into bed, the song started again. "Sister, sister, he's just a plaything. We want to make him stay up all night." As it turned out, they weren't kidding. I got literally 0 minutes of sleep that night. Every time I started to drift off, I was woken up violently. Then the song would play.
Oh, they were
When,
pumping blood into his pee-pee.
yeah, I inferred that, an erection, blood pumped penis. The sun came up. I gave up trying to sleep and got out of bed. I was relieved at first because the song had quit playing. I thought the torture was over until the voice entered my mind. The voice said, "You're going to be uncomfortable. All you have to do is breathe." I sat there wondering what this meant until the voice spoke again. It told me I was going to be sacrificed like Jesus and get beheaded. This threw me into complete panic. My heart began racing and I started to have a mental breakdown. A few minutes later, some man knocked on my door. I answered and he gave me a pamphlet talking about the sacrifice of Jesus. My mind started racing out of control and became completely delirious. I thought for sure I was going to die. My thoughts shifted to my family, and all I could think about was seeing them again. They were in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque.
Yeah,
Albuquerque.
yeah,
Hot dog, jumping frog, Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. I've
There
never
you go.
seen it spelled before, so just like Albuquerque.
That's
So I just,
why I heard, because I know you like prefab sprout. That's why I did.
I do, yes. The King of
So-
Rock and Roll is a good song. So I decided to buy a one-way ticket there to Albuquerque. Well, anyway, I reached the Spokane airport. My panic subsided. Everything was fine until I got on the plane to
That's
Albuquerque.
Spokane. I think it's Spokane, isn't it? That's Washington, isn't it?
Spokane. I sat next to this huge man who kept telling me telepathically that he was going to crash the plane. Every time after he spoke, he would sniff emphatically. I didn't know what to do, so I just sat there
Why
trying
didn't he
to.
try and speak back, going, "I'm going to shit myself"? just not these people are so fucking serious. This is how you stop them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a sense of humour. I think is an invaluable tool for staying protected. Because otherwise,
Or just look him in the eye and say to him, "I've just shit my pants."
yeah, and I'm going to sit next to you throughout the entire flight.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. So he's going to every time after he spoke, he sniffed emphatically. I didn't know what to do, so I just said, trying to stay as calm as possible. The man became angry about this and started touching my leg. Oh dear! The second he touched me, I could feel him inside my mind. This caused me to panic until I was on the verge of causing a scene. Before I did
didn't have his
anything,
hand inside his pants. That's what, it's one up, isn't it?
Before I did anything, he told me to calm down and said, "You did a great job. You passed. Go enjoy your family. We have a job waiting for you when you get back." I thanked him and I felt slightly relieved, but I had no intention of contacting him at all. My only thought was to get as far away from him as possible. After getting off the plane, I headed to the baggage claim. A huge group of them surrounded me there. I watched them cautiously. They all began sniffing at me. The sniff is something they do all the time. I think it has something to do with dominance. When I finally got my bag, I left the airport as fast as I could. My parents were right outside waiting to pick me up. I was so happy to see them again. I gave them big hugs and told them how much I loved them. This was my last happy moment in Albuquerque. However, they followed us everywhere we went after that. Whenever I saw one, they would sniff at me to let me know it was them. They would also smile, laugh, and stick their tongues out. As time went on,
So when they sniff at you, you go, "Oh, how did you know I've shit myself?"
as time went on, they said, "This is why you don't get picked to be a school shooter, Hemi. You just don't take things." Don't you? Didn't anything Claire Core say to you last night, like sticking that thick skull of yours?
Yeah, it did.
You don't take things seriously.
I'm going to start being an incel now.
You need to start taking things seriously and
Stop being an
realize
incel.
that. Look, secular Quranism will protect you from mind control.
Yeah.
As time went on, they started coaxing me to go outside alone. I was scared to death they would kill me, so I refused. Eventually, they threatened to harm my family, which caused me to give in to them.
Yeah,
I
that's a
told
good
them
point. Does this mean Joe Biden's one of them? Because he's always sniffing kids.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is, and it's not because he's a paedophile. I told them I'd do whatever they want if they left my
Allegedly.
family alone. It's so-called.
It's so
They responded by
Allegedly.
saying, "Yes." go to church. I knew they meant the altar, so I agreed to go when I got back. When I went to the altar for the first time, the people acted very strange. It was unhuman. As I walked to the sermon room, everyone said, "What sort of church is this? Where it's called the altar and you have a sermon room?" I mean, that's not like any church I've been to.
That's a bit weird. That seems a bit like a Nazi room to me.
Is this a bit like is this what Protestants call church? Like it's in the strip mall next to the Walmart.
Well, I don't think you should start. Well, are you talking about American? Oh, you're obviously talking about American Protestants, not real Protestants.
Well, yeah, Anglicans. We the advantage of that is like, oh, that's a nice Catholic church. Yeah, it's Church of England now. Tewkesbury Abbey, by the way, is absolutely beautiful. After he sat down and began smelling something, it was a smell I'd never sat before. The only thing I can compare it to is a reptile and vinegar. After smelling it, I became very uncomfortable.
Have you ever smelled a reptile, Hobbit? I haven't.
I've handled a snake before, and I
don't recall having a smell.
No, I don't know. Maybe like he's dealt with crocodiles before.
I'm beginning to think that maybe Carl O'Dom's schizophrenic.
You know what? There could be like certain vulnerable people which are easy to predict. I mean, the fact is, schizophrenia is when you hear voices inside your head, right? And the thing is, it doesn't matter whether those voices are completely fabricated by you, or if they're actually like genuinely like people beaming thoughts into your skull. It still results in schizophrenic episodes.
Well, I keep hearing TGIF in my head, but that's not because I'm being gang stalked. It's just because that fucking song keeps getting stuck in my head.
I had for the longest time Love Cats by The Cure stuck in my head.
Oh, that's not
and then
good.
A few years later, I heard the song being played out, and you know Dave, who, by the way, you're a bastard for doing this, and I hate you, because this song was genuinely causing me distress, and I said, "Hey, that song, you know that song?" He says, "Yeah, I know the song. What's it called?" The New Dance by Charles Dance. So I looked up everything to do with Charles Dance, like that actor from Last Action Hero, because Game of Thrones didn't exist back then, and I was like, he's not a singer. He's done nothing by it. And it's like, and then eventually I found like it was called Love Cats by The Cure because it was on Nevermind the Buzzcocks, and it was like, and then I actually rung up Dave whilst that show was on.
Sergeant Oinkinson says the lizards are shilling TGIF and The Cure. Is it? No, it's actually Friday night, isn't it? I think that song is.
I rung up Dave at that time. Well, it must have been like 11 o'clock or something, and he picked up, and I was like, "It's Love Cats by The Cure." He said, "What?" It's like, "You told me it was the New Dance by Charles Dance." That was years ago. Yeah, you bastard! I've only just found out now. Why are you calling me at this time? Well, he laughed, but
how do you not? I'm more astonished that you didn't immediately know it was Love Cats by The Cure.
Believe it or not, there was a time and place called the late 90s where I didn't know everything. And you couldn't just like type lyrics into the internet. And anyway, I literally
didn't know about The Cure during the 90s.
The other thing as well was like, of course I heard The Cure like in the early 90s, but then I forgot because I was never really into The Cure, so I didn't know. And that's it. How do you like lyric search for a song that goes ba 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 ba? I mean, that turns up nothing. So anyway,
is schizophrenia just a human superpower, a gift and a curse, like Great Spider-Man? With great voices in your head come great responsibility, don't they?
Well, to be honest, I've met a schizophrenic before, and he was very intelligent, but then he was convinced he's actually a tranny, and his name is this Mexican singer. So he got abused. Anyway, and another famous schizophrenic is Saint Terry. So anyway, a reptile and vinegar. After smelling it, I became very uncomfortable. I tried to remain calm and just sat there quietly until the service was over. When the service ended, they said, You can leave now. After that, I knew I wasn't dealing with the government anymore. I realised that whoever I was dealing with was extraterrestrial, so I became very scared. I received no further instructions from them after that, so I began applying for jobs again. Even though I'd done exactly as I was told, they still followed me everywhere I went. As time went on, they started harassing me day and night. I began to hear voices more often, and I began to hallucinate things I knew weren't real. They also started playing with me sexually. Both the males and females would play out their sexual fantasies in my mind. This came with random and uncontrollable blank, as well as extreme blank stimulation. See brain behavior in Martian tech. Unfortunately, I don't have this, so whatever it's referring to is not there. The harassment continued for weeks and intensified as time went on. I did my absolute best to maintain my sanity and try to avoid them. This worked for a while, but eventually I had a huge meltdown. One day, I was in the bakery at Safeway.
See, the way you stop all that stuff is you literally just open the curtains and knock one out while they're looking at you.
Can't you get done anything? You could get done for indecent exposure, I think, doing that.
Well, stand a bit back from the window then.
The harassment continued for weeks and intensified as time went on. Well, he's scared, he's not willing to be proactive. I did my absolute best to maintain my sanity and try to avoid it. This worked for a while.
Just lying back and taking it ain't going to get you anywhere, is it?
No. One day, I was in the bakery at Safeway and got surrounded by a bunch of old men. Some of them looked at me and sniffed, so I knew it was them. They started stimulating my blank and blank simultaneously. Then they spoke aggressively. They said, "Humans are nothing more than the result of a successful genetic experiment. You are a threat to the way people think, and you can no longer be free in society. Your life is over. You are nothing but a toy. Your purpose now is to suck blank." They continued to say other explicit things that were so obscene I won't repeat them here. Before they finished talking, I became enraged. I took every ounce of willpower I had not to kill them. I left the store and tried to calm down, but it only got worse. The rest of the night, they continually stimulated blank, and I couldn't stop blank. It got to the point where I was in serious pain. They finally stopped after I broke down and became completely distraught.
Oh,
I knew I couldn't.
Do you remember that one when that dude took the bull Viagra and he had a 3-day hard on?
Why is there Viagra for bulls?
It was something like that anyway. I can't remember. But the bloke took, I don't know, some idiot thought it'd be a good idea to take it, and he had a hard on for about 3 days and nearly killed his boner.
Oh, right. Got to the point of serious pain. They finally stopped after I broke down and became completely distraught. I knew I couldn't take anymore, so I attempted suicide. I filled a charcoal grill with lit coals, put it in my car.
Before you try DMT, try AZT. I thought AZT was the AIDS cure, wasn't it?
You'll have to spell out what the chemicals are, because, I don't know what AZT is. I'll have to look on Arrowhead, maybe. I filled a charcoal grill with lit coals.
Yeah, it's a drug used to delay development of AIDS.
I filled a charcoal grill with lit coals, put my car and rolled up windows, reclined in my seat, lay there calmly and fell asleep. I should have died, but they woke me up in an extreme panic, which caused me to get out of the car. As I slowly regained consciousness, I felt very upset to still be alive. I had no clue where to go at that point, so I decided to check myself into the VA. Oh yeah, he said he was a former Marine, wasn't he? So, yeah, they do fuck with people there. My granddad, they put him into experiments for ESP, and then he became a radar instructor. Well, they always like try and find spooky people that have got like telepathic powers. They shoot me straight.
They don't believe in it.
Well, they that's like them saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as the B-2 stealth bomber." They just plausible deniability. They shipped me straight to the mental ward, and I was admitted. Nothing improved whilst I was there. The medication they gave me did absolutely nothing. I just sat there, surrounded by a bunch of psychotic people, and became exasperated. I knew their goal was to ruin my life by making me into a crazy person. I became determined not to let that happen, and I started fighting him back. After leaving the VA, everything I tried to do in my life was sabotaged. They didn't want me dead, but they also weren't going to let me live. In desperation, I went back to the altar to ask them what they wanted from me. I didn't know what else to do. Before I tell you their reply, I need to make an important caveat here. I had endured so much abuse by the time that I was numb to them. The details of what they'd done to me aren't essential to the story, so I won't include them here. If you want to know more about what I've been through or more about them, write me. I just realised that I've been tortured more than a pal. Oh, prisoner of war. Their response was, "We want you as our sex slave." Thinking they were serious, I sat there waiting for them to do something. All they did was say, "Keep coming to church," so I did. After a few more services, I found myself talking to Tim Remington face to face. He was telling me that I should consider becoming a minister. We were in mid-conversation when he suddenly revealed himself to me. I have no clue how he did it, but it looked as if his human face became his real face. It happened only for 1 to 2 seconds, but I was able to draw a sketch of what I saw. His eyes really stood out, so they captured my attention. They were huge and bulging, the eyelids were darker green, and the irises were yellow-brown with slit pupils. After witnessing this, nothing else happened. I continued to tend the altar for a few more services, waiting for them to do something. They did nothing except for tell me to submit and surrender. I had no clue what they meant, so I left the church and never went back. Org 2015-present time-CDA ID. After leaving the altar, they gave me some breathing room, they held back on their harassment, and I began to recover. I decided to make one final attempt at a normal life by pursuing a career as a pharmacist. I started taking classes at NIC to finish up the prereqs I needed. I also started volunteering at a local pharmacy. Unfortunately, they followed me to school. There were several of them in every class I took. They made it impossible for me to study, and they continually harassed me, especially while I took tests. Even with all of this going on, I still somehow managed to get an A- in AMP during the fall semester. No idea what AMP is. So, I mean, I like how they use all these codes and expect people to just know what they are. Sadly, my success was short.
It's Yanks. They can't be bothered to learn the first thing about your country, but you have to know everything about theirs.
Yeah. My favourite thing is when Americans tell me about what's wrong with my country.
Yeah.
When they don't even have a passport.
Well, they're not allowed to hang washing out in their back garden.
Yeah. Sadly, my success was short-lived. The pressure this semester, spring 2016, is far too intense. Every time I go to class, they start manipulating my brain until I go in blind rage. Sometimes they suppress my brain and I begin to black out. They also manipulate my heart rate and flood my body with adrenaline over and over again, making me extremely uncomfortable. The female stimulate blank when they are close, and the male stimulate blank. It's incredibly exhausting. I struggled to pass my test, so I couldn't blame this on me falling out of school. I want to continue,
but kept having orgasms all the time. Do you remember that one?
But I simply cannot.
Sensitive, and she used to have knee tremblers in the office cupboard.
The worst part is I received an interview for ISU's pharmacy program. See personal documents, which again, nothing's there in this. Since I cannot continue with the classes, there is no reason to go to the interview. I will search Martian Tech Carl Odom after this, see if I can find what he's written about that. There's no reason to go into the interview. My chance at a normal life has been ruined. They've also been depriving me of sleep, so I don't have the strength to continue. I was too smart for my own good, so they decided to remove me from society. They were worried I might change the way other people think, which could lead to problems. Problems in the form of scientific revolutions. If we get much smarter as a species, we are going to become a threat to their existence. If you talk to me in person, you'll see I'm not crazy at all. The Martians are just so good at hiding in plain sight that no one would know they exist unless they revealed themselves. They're able to fool us so well that what I'm saying sounds impossible. However, they are 100% real. Realize their technology is millions of years more advanced than ours. Think about that for a second. Think about the advancement we have made in the last 100 years. Once you've done that, try to imagine what millions of years of technology will look
for a
like.
second. It really sounds like it's real creepypasta hours, isn't it? That is.
The president is what. Well, I mean, the thing which gives me credence to that is the idea that integrated circuits, transistors, and all of it's reverse engineered from the Roswell crash.
Wi-Fi as well, isn't it?
Wow. Nikola Tesla wrote about wireless two-way communication. So, but yeah, digital stuff that's a bit extra. The president is well aware of them, which is why I wrote him a personal letter. I hope he does something about it. I've done nothing wrong to deserve what's happened to me. I tried literally everything to find a job, and they sabotaged me at every corner. Initially, I thought the right thing to do was kill myself. After attempting suicide twice, it became clear they weren't going to let me die easy.
Can you cover what David Icke actually thinks about lizard people yet?
I'm still reading the manifesto. We're almost through it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My last resort is to take actions to bring this to public's attention. I did briefly mention him seeing Ted Heath change before his very eyes.
Yeah.
Before his very eyes. What are your very eyes? Are they like the yellow ones with the slits in?
Before my very eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those turn of phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why people say it, but my last resort was to take actions to bring this to public's attention. I hope something good comes of it. Just realise I am a good person. I'm completely innocent. Also realise the people I killed are not who you think. Read Martian Technology to understand. To make it very clear, Tim and John were not wild human beings. Wild humans equals normal people like you and I. Tim and John, minds were controlled from birth by Martians. It's hard to imagine, I know. Nonetheless, it's all true. Why would I give up a career as a pharmacist to do this? I left out many details from my story.
Schizophrenia, mental break.
I wanted to write only the most critical events in order to make it coherent. If you want to know more, like how I discovered there are multiple species, then feel free to write me.
Are there racisms between the different species of lizard?
Look, nothing against reptilians. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
So Q&A. Why would aliens hide in the church? Same reason terrorists hide in mosques. If you're going to do very bad things, that's a bit racial profiling.
Fucking spicy, isn't it? Jesus.
Do you remember, almost 10 years ago when you could get away with saying that terrorists hide in mosques? Do you remember the War on Terror? What happened to that? If you
lost it.
Okay, that's why terrorists win.
Yeah.
If you're doing very bad things and you want to avoid getting caught, you'll put up a front to make yourself look like a good person.
Yeah.
How do you know about their technology? I've seen them use it, and they've talked to me about it. It's how I learned about their breeding stock of remote control humans. Physically, their humans are no different than us. They just lack a mind of their own. That's most people in the world, then.
Well, what about those weird people that see pictures in their head or have a voice in their head? Do you remember all that stuff?
Internal monologues and being able to do abstract thoughts and manipulate three-dimensional objects in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, who could do such a thing? Like, I don't do it myself just to amuse myself. I literally have, like, pictures of engines in my head when I'm trying to go, why is the geometry on a straight 4 like that? Why isn't it not like this? I run simulations of machines in my head to see, like, if it will work or not.
I don't go quite that far, but I do visualise.
Yeah,
stuff to take
I have. You know, I have autisms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do that stuff. I do get obsessional about these things. Why would they tell you so much? They value me because I'm smart. They also
Do you think it could be to taunt them? It's like an extra layer of torture, isn't it? They tell you the whole of their plan, yet no one will. Yet you have all of this knowledge, but you can't impart it to anyone because no one believes you because they think you're crackers.
We did something similar to this. I can't remember what episode it was, but I think we were talking about satanic child sacrifices, and someone was being told about it. And it's like, why are you telling me all this? I'm going to go and tell the police. It's like, yeah, we own the police.
Go for it. Yeah.
Go ahead and tell people and watch as they laugh in your face. And that's pretty much like the thing. You try and tell people about this stuff and they laugh in your face. So you just you get like a few fringe people which have no power whatsoever that'll believe in it, and that's it. They value me because I'm smart. They also very confident they could take control of my mind. Turns out they couldn't. Anyway, in the interim, some of us developed a personal relationship. They are very arrogant, so they told me much more than they should have. This allowed me to understand some of the things that they do. What else have you seen? I've seen them make things appear out of nowhere. One time, I was sitting on the couch, and the dollar bill appeared on my lap. Another time, whilst driving, they made a paper bag appear in my passenger seat. They used random, unsuspecting items, so no one would think anything of it. I was alone both times this happened.
Is it a bit like Austin Powers when they find the penis pump in his bag?
I don't know how it got there.
That's not me, baby. That was the Martians.
So I'm pretty sure they can pop in and out of this dimension based on other things I've seen. I'm also pretty sure they can overlap our reality with an alternate dimension. I say this because I've gone into stores where I know the employees, and suddenly they're all new employees who I've never seen before. So many other things.
This could actually be Jinn and not aliens.
Well, he says they're from Mars, but who's to say then they're not demons? Because like what he's drawn to me looks like a demon.
I'm talking about the cross-dimensional stuff. That's because the Jinn live in like a slightly different version of Earth to us, don't they?
As do demons. And that's why CERN has been like widening the hole into hell. So, because wouldn't it be funny if demons were cavorting around Switzerland?
Yeah.
Some of the things I've seen are so strange. I literally,
Schwab, allegedly.
I literally cannot describe them. This all makes sense though. Their technology is millions of years ahead of ours, so it should be incomprehensible to us. Why did they target you? They started following me after I encountered this being through meditation. Since my mind was so expanded from the experience, they deemed me, a threat to the rest of society. They thought I would change the way people think, so they decided to remove me from society. I began to have profound thoughts about genetics whilst I was at graduate school, which is another factor. If certain ways of thinking are allowed to exist, revolutions will take place. They could not afford for us to have a revolution in genetics. If we did, we could eliminate disease, cancers, and many other things that plague us. They need us to remain ignorant and continue struggling, otherwise we will become a threat to them. This will not make sense unless you are president or one of his close friends. If this doesn't pertain to you, please ignore it. Well, I'm not the president or one of his close friends, so shall I just ignore that? He talks about a bulleted list. So I'll ignore that one. Martian brain and behaviour. I've observed their behaviour for almost a year now. Consequently, I've been able to make several deductions about them. The first deduction is based on the primary characteristics, which include they are hypersexual, they are hyperaggressive, they are fearful and paranoid. That sounds familiar. In the human brain, the amygdala is responsible for all of these characteristics. Therefore, Martians must have an analogous structure, and it must be greatly enlarged. The morphology of their brain is also markedly different than ours. I don't know what morphology means. I know this because I've seen what the amphibian humanoids look like. The males are extremely aggressive. In their society, there is only one thing, and that is power. Whoever is the smartest, biggest, and strongest wins. One time I was talking to a young male who kept trying to intimidate or scare me. He saw that I was still confident in myself and immediately became discouraged. He stopped what he was doing and said, "You think you're better than me," then hung his head and walked away. I told him that wasn't true, but he wouldn't listen. After this, every time I encountered one of the males in public, they would attack me mentally until they destroyed my self-esteem. They did this because they are scared to death of my intelligence. The only way they have the confidence to talk with me is if I'm scared for my life or completely despondent. To the males, everything is black and white. There's no middle ground. They are power-hungry megalomaniacs obsessed with control. If they are not 100% in control of every situation, they panic. If something happens they aren't anticipating, they get very upset. They hate surprises. I know this because I was smart enough to trick them a few times. To recap, the males are 1. Megalomaniacal. 2. Obsessed with sex. 3. Extremely aggressive. 4. Fearful and paranoid. 5. Power hungry. I think you're repeating yourself now. 6. Obsessed with control. How many ways can you describe megalomania? Sound familiar? Who else do you know has these characteristics?
Oi,
If you answer...
that's an anti-Semitic canard.
Well, he says... and this is where I think a lot of his problems come from, but if you answer God from the Bible, you are correct. Martians are responsible for the God myth. Martians may have created humans as they claimed, but they are certainly not gods
that was
themselves.
totally what I was going to say. I was going to say God on it. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
They are just another intelligent species that evolved on the neighbouring planet. There is no God. There is no heaven. There is no hell. Earth is as close to heaven as we'll ever get. And we are letting Martians ruin it. They are going to destroy Earth just like they destroyed Mars if we let them. Our survival rests in their hands for the time being. And then, you looking at this PDF?
No.
Okay, well, pages 18 and 19 has got a drawing of what the creature looks like and then a description of huge eyes that stuck out the sockets, yellow-brown iris, projecting muzzle with 45-degree angled nostrils, huge mouth, dark green skin. The only part I really saw well was the eyes. This is what their teeth look like. I assume they said this because their head looks like a Muppet. Elmo rules the world. Something they kept saying to me.
Global Diversity Coalition said Carl read too much Nietzsche and Richard Dawkins.
For years, warring factions.
I think if he had actually had faith, he'd have been able to dispel these demons. If you don't have faith in God, like a lot of smart people do, because you think you're smarter than all of that, then demons come and start toying with you.
Yeah.
And I won't elaborate on that. They only reveal bits and pieces to me, and very briefly. Thankfully, I have a photographic memory, so I was able to remember what I saw, although I only remember the general appearance because each time I saw them, it was very brief. They would smile at me in stores and reveal their mouth, eyes, nose, or separately, never together at the same time. And then there's a list of noteworthy Martians. So we've got senators, US House of Representatives, and Israeli leadership. Oh, that's interesting. Is there any names I recognise here? Let's see. Lee Rosenberg. Shimon Solomon.
Hold on a minute. I think I know where this list is going. This is just an anti-Semitic canard.
Chaim Katz. Moshe Feiglin. Well, this is the Israeli.
Moishe, isn't it?
This is the Israeli leadership. Any of these names? Yuri Ariel. Yeah, that's it. Avi Watzman, Anmon Cohen, Nissan ZEV. That's a car, isn't it? Yisrael Eichler.
Nissan 350Z, did you say, Hobbit?
Yeah, and every single prime minister since 1948. Now, what have we got in the US senators? Roy Blunt, Roger Wicker, Richard Durbin, Patty Murray, Tom Carver, Ben Carter, Mitch McConnell. Oh, I've heard of Mitch McConnell. Yeah. Ron Wyden, Tim Scott, Bill Cassidy, Barbara Mikulski, Elizabeth Warren. Oh, I've heard of her. She's, a powwow Indian.
She's Indian, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a feather Indian.
Yeah.
Kelly Ayotte, John Barrasso, Gian Shaheen, and Debbie Stabby now. That's an interesting name. Stabby now. This is no by Debbie Stabby now, a U.S. senator. This is by no means an all-inclusive list. Martians are ubiquitous. They exist at every level of society in every nation.
Well, I don't think they're that ubiquitous. They can seem quite specific.
Some have blue-collar jobs, whilst others occupy positions of power. They control our government, our military, and corporate America as well. They keep track of every wild human on the planet and manage us like animals in a zoo. Our freedom is a carefully crafted illusion. So
is his reading of lizards very similar to David Icke's reading of lizards then?
Well, David Icke has seen shape-changing reptilians, and he's seen Ted Heath transform in front of him. So, and there's that film They Live.
I can chime in a little bit here on what David Icke actually believes that the lizard/reptilians are. So he believes that when he talks about shapeshifters, he believes the source is an extra-dimensional evil that invades our world and creates very unnatural institutions that are into all sorts of fucked up child sacrifice. And one of the ways which they manifest with avatars, like in a video game, he believes essentially that we live in some sort of like artificial reality, is as aliens that like the kind of reptilian in appearance. So that's why throughout mythologies you'll see they're not allowed to be depicted as they really are, but they take on serpentine satanic features, most represented by a type of lizard reptilian creature that is a serpent. And every now and then the bodysuit or they have a little glitch, and that is the way that the avatars of this evil extra-dimensional force manifest, and they essentially walk around in skin suits. So that's essentially what he believes. He doesn't believe in shape-shifting reptiles necessarily. It's a bit more complicated than that.
So is he saying they're more like I don't know whether you remember the Slitheen from Doctor Who?
He believes that they're essentially demons under a different name.
Yeah.
He also said that the Queen Mother was a reptilian, and
no, that was
when
Zero that said that, wasn't it?
David Icke said it as well.
Oh, okay.
And when she didn't die, but she wasn't able to keep up the human illusion any longer, so that coffin was massive to contain her body, which is actually reptilian. But then, if she didn't die, then the coffin could have been normal size. So. Maybe the coffin was massive because it's like
they just put on a new skin suit. And like, if you actually listen to what he's saying, it sort of makes sense if you do believe in.
Yeah, but why do they wait till the suit's absolutely fucked before they get a new one?
So he believes, like, it gets a bit more complicated. He talks about energy manifestation and things like that. Like, I could go into more detail, I guess, but I don't want to get into really autistic detail. But I kind of agree with what he's saying, though. Like, if you believe in any sort of, like, spiritual evil in the world, the reason our world is so fucked up is that they gain influence by making all these secret societies. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, like, the most common sense thing to say is it's the tribe. But he does believe... So in all of his books, he'll talk about someone who's been up to no good. And
even Jesus identified it, didn't he? He says, look, you are of your father, the devil. You are the synagogue of Satan. Yeah. I mean, David Icke is very careful with his language because he can't just say, look, they're the synagogue of Satan. Jesus came before, he warned you. You put him on the cross to die. Please don't execute.
Well, one of the funniest things about his book, he was doing essentially the triple brackets meme since before the alt-right were.
Yeah.
Back, 5-7 years ago now? Like, he was in his books, so whenever he name drops some person of influence, like, he'll do after their name in brackets Rothschild Zionist. Yeah. Like, no joke. I'm not joking. Like, I just find that kind of ironic. Like, that some things come full circle. But yeah, that's essentially what his take on the lizard thing is. Like, they take many forms They occupy, essentially, they are skinwalkers, but they are an extra-dimensional evil seeking influence upon this world. They manifest as an elite class because they're a lot like a biological AI. They can't really create, so they have to twist and influence and corrupt things.
Well, I've been hearing a lot about this. This is a theory in ufology as well, isn't it? That aliens are actually either aliens or either demons, or there's some sort of creature that's gone too far with genetic cloning or whatever, and they're in these like weird clockwork soulless bodies, aren't they? And they're kind of jealous of us, and that's why they want to hybridize us, because they want to return a bit of vigor to their race.
So that's the hybrid theory. Bumped. So he does say that a lot of the elites that we see, the reason that they are all into abducting children and there's so many missing children, etc., and this human trafficking is they do want to sow evil within the world. But the way in which they manifest into the world through avatars that can manifest in our reality is through a hybrid class. So the ultimate ascension of the aliens and the elite, and when they talk about their bloodlines, it's who has the hybrid bloodline that this evil from an extra dimension can then manifest through. And when you think about how, when you think about it, it does sort of start to add up a little bit.
How about this then? This is I thought I'd just have a look at some statistics. We're talking about missing people. This is England. I assume it's the United Kingdom. Bearing in mind we're a population of 60, 70 million. Someone is reported missing every 90 seconds in the UK. 170,000 people are reported missing every year. There are 353,000 reported missing incidents every year. How many people go missing each year? Missing people, of the 170,000 people reported missing, nearly 98,000 are adults and more than 70,000 are children. So this is per year.
So I remember watching a speech from David Icke, and he said, he's like, the number of missing children every year would shock you. And it's like,
yeah,
he's kind of got a point there, but here's how they get away with it. A lot of the time,
it's close to 800,000 in America every year.
Well, they do this in shithole countries that, I guess no one really cares about because it flies under the radar. But there also are high-profile cases that happen in the local news that isn't really nationally reported in the same way. So they will go to these poor neighborhoods and just sort of start fucking kidnapping people. Using there are tunnels in the desert, etc., that people have found. They'll be like, oh, it's old bootlegger tunnels. I'm like, no, they're still active. And they say that it's, it must be used by the Colombian mob to distribute drugs. And it's like, yeah, but those networks also exist for a reason. Those people don't have any scruples. And I unironically do think that, they really want to get their hands on certain types of children, which is where all the black market code speech and all this shit is promoted. It's to make it, and all the LGBT stuff and all of it. When you realize that literally the powers that be are satanic, whatever you want to call it, some demiurge worshipping pedophiles with infinite money, it really starts to add up. It's something that us in this sphere, I don't know, the DR, we don't really cover so much.
So how about this then? I've got some 2020 stats from the FBI for America. So monthly. This is all the months added up. So yearly, 543,018 go missing a year. What's entry and purge? I don't know what this is. Entry, so that must be first time they're entered then as a statistic. 346,237 of which are determined as juveniles. So a juvenile is a person under the age of 21 who is missing and does not meet any of the entry criteria set forth in other categories. This is really weird.
Well, they say that the reason that social services or the equivalent in other countries is so fucked is they do have a lot of teens go missing, etc. all the time.
Yeah.
And somebody said a lot of them are apparently found alive. It's a misleading number, okay, but then you've got the ones that aren't. Where did they go?
So we'll find some world stats.
Exactly. So, I mean, human trafficking unironically exists,
Fucking
and I
hell.
think the
How about this
elites have a
then?
bigger
Okay,
hand to play there.
India. So in India, statistics show that 88 women, kids, and men go missing by the hour.
Yeah.
2,130 people go missing every day, and 64,851 people every month.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
That's India. Colombia.
Well, they're also like, there was an American TV show where they're like, oh, a bunch of people go missing in national parks. It's like, and they're never found. It's like, well, animal attacks, and no, I think it literally is. They're getting abducted for whatever wacky fucking experiments that shapeshifter cults are wanting to fucking do to them. They need human trials for a lot of big pharma things.
We covered this in
there's a lot to it.
underground cities as well.
Yeah,
They talk about the 800,000 which go missing every year in the United States, and there's a significant number in the UK which go missing as well.
I believe it.
Well, I mean, you don't have to. The Office of National Statistics shows how many people go missing every year.
So
And that's just the ones we know about.
According to an organisation called Child Find of America, 2,300 children are reported missing every day in the US.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is just like blacks in the inner city going, "Where Jamal gone?" You know, but
our figures are a bit different because they're a bit more detailed. So, although I said 180,000 people go missing in the UK every year, majority of missing persons come from aged children, but 80% of them are found within 24 hours of filing a missing persons report. Well, you guys have you ever heard of Johnny Gosh? You ever heard of Johnny Gosh?
No.
He was a kid who went missing. His mum campaigned for years, and she said that eventually later, when he was in his teens, he came back to her and explained what had happened, and he'd been kidnapped for use as a sex slave.
Yep. I mean, it's there literally is infrastructure there that exists in a type of underground market, a black market, and a black infrastructure. What I don't mean like, Afro basketball Americans by that, but there 100% is, and they intentionally target people with very few connections. They're always like, you wouldn't really be missed, or kids that don't really have any ties, and it's pretty frightening to think about because they get shipped through countries. It's only every now and then that one of these cases becomes high profile.
Mention about how many children go missing in Disney World, and they have underground tunnels everywhere.
I mean,
so that the staff can get one attraction to the other.
Don't forget that McMartin Preschool totally didn't have the underground tunnels, and it wasn't accidentally released by the FBI, was it, that they did?
And Epstein Island, don't forget. Like, there's other islands out there like that where they ship in kids to. So,
well, this is the thing. They have to sacrifice every someone now and again for the good of the cabal, don't they? They have to offer up a name, and let's not forget that Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of trafficking children to nobody, wasn't she?
Yep.
Still alive as far as I know. But
I think they're just, like David Icke always says as well, that these people that you can name that are in the high profile, they're like the face man. They're like the blame of the they never uncover the network. They're like like the lower rung of how deep it goes, and they're just the most
they're the upper rung. Well, I don't know. It depends which way you determine the good part and the bad part of the ladder are. I mean, as you know, they're the top rung at the surface, aren't they? If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, he always describes it as a spider's web. He's like, the web. You've got the outer ones that are like the open secrets, and then the deeper ones, and then the ones that go even further in that aren't publicly known about.
Yeah. They turn this into Trump was big mates with Epstein, but everybody fucking went to Epstein Island, didn't they?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I didn't personally, but
But yeah, it's you hear names all the time of people that were going to Epstein Island, and I think
yeah.
that was for the initiation, wasn't it? Where there's where you go in there, there's the picture of you with a kid, and now you can join the club, can't you?
Well, they've got autistic symptoms of how to ascend into a vampiric fucking whatever, and they've got little rankings amongst themselves. But I think that's literally the Spurgs on the outer rim, where they're like, you need to do something fucked up, and then we'll all acknowledge that you oh yeah, climbing up in the rank, you've leveled up,
Yeah,
and then you just do more and more fucked up things, so that then eventually the really fucked up things are like just even bigger, I guess. Like, I don't think that normal, healthy, spiritually healthy people can even really wrap their heads around it. But I believe if you take an atheistic stance on it, I believe it's more that, let's say, rich elites, whatever you want to say, they get incredibly bored because their money, essentially, and their connections can get them experiences that eventually, there's only so many fucking anal gangbangs and like cocaine benders you can do before you meet the next
do you really
top.
believe that the Rothschilds are the top of the tree?
No, of course not.
There's somebody who gets the Rothschild geezer and pokes him in the chest, don't there?
Yeah, 100%. I think they're like, oh, we're on the boundary. Like, like Hellraiser, they say it's the outer bounds of experience and pain and pleasure is now confused because you're that fucked in the head. And like, I think you could say maybe they just seek like more extreme experiences so they can get a high. And that's maybe why they're all into all this like diddling and fucking, I don't even know. So they blow their own minds going, oh my God, this is so fucked up. But it gives them a high. Since they broke down a lot of the moral boundaries that they had anyway.
Well,
or you can
they get away with it because they can, don't they? That's why they do it.
Yeah. Or you could look at it a different way and be like, it truly is that they worship some sort of evil extra-dimensional demiurge. It doesn't really matter because ultimately they believe it, and the consequences to our society plays out every day.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this previously, but so Carl Odom went to go and shoot one of these. I hate how I can't say words I want to on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Reptilians, let's just call them that.
Yeah.
And so normally you'd expect if somebody's been shot and a bullet has entered their body, there's going to be like some sort of mark or wound. No, Tim Remington, next day, released from the hospital. It's like, yeah, I'm all better now. Oh, where's your entry and exit wound? Ha ha ha, yeah, no, they're not there. So I'm just going to go and be part of the Idaho House of Representatives now that I've been shot in the face and required. So, only through counselling and medication...
He's Dr. Mr. Pastor, Tim Remington, isn't he?
So this is from Carl A. Odom, sentenced to at least 10 years in prison for shooting at Coeur d'Alene pastor.
Oh, he shot him at a Ted Cruz rally. Did you know that?
Only through counselling and medication did Carl A. Odom realise that Coeur d'Alene pastor he shot 6 times was not an alien taking over the lives of other humans. Pastor Tim Remington, 56, who survived the ambush, but so he was shot 6 times and he lived. Okay, yeah, just like okay.
What's his name? 50 Cent got shot a load of times, didn't he? It depends where and what happens, but
who's to say 50 Cent's not one of these reptilians?
Did you know that Padula bloke you're mentioning was a meth addict for 17 years before going through the church's program 7 years ago?
No, I didn't know.
This is in the
paper. He struggled into the courtroom in a body that's still racked by pain. His first stop was Odom's family, who he offered only good wishes. In an extraordinary case filled with forgiveness, mental illness and violence, First District Judge Lansing Haynes sentenced Odom, 31, to 10 years in prison with another 15 years to be determined by Idaho prison officials. Odom pleaded guilty in July to aggravated battery with a firearm.
It's a shame Zero
Okay.
isn't here because he's good with his dates, isn't he? I bet the date would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm not good at numerology.
Mm.
It read like a science fiction novel, as if the author was a completely sane man living in an alien possession of human beings, Haynes said of Odom's manifesto.
So
It's hard to
Tim
know.
Remington, 55, was shot 6 times, including head, lung, hip, and shoulder.
It's hard to know what forces are being exerted or what they consist of. But there is one supernatural force in that its play here today, Haynes continued, and that is forgiveness.
Oh,
We sent him
here's the other thing that you're forgetting, Hobbit. The other thing as well is the dude was in the army. So why was he missing?
Marine Corps.
Yeah.
What do you mean missing?
Well, they said it didn't look like the first time he had shot. Yet none of them were fatal. Yet it wasn't fatal.
I don't know. Anyway, I'll read the rest of this article because I'm not finding anything about Martian technology. It's hard to know what forces being exerted when they consist of, but there's one supernatural force. Yeah, forgiveness. In a brief pause while Haynes left to consider his rulings, Remington gathered everyone in the courtroom wanted, including Zodon's family, to pray. He described in detail how the first bullet in the ambush attack struck him in the middle of the back. The second bullet struck him in the rear of the pelvis. After going down, 4 more bullets hit him in the side and arm. I was on the phone with my son, Remington said, as his voice cracked. He heard it. He came back to the site and saw me there. The officer wouldn't let him close, which bothers me. I thought it was going to be my last breath. I just wanted to talk to someone from the family. 1 bullet hit Remington's arm bone, shattering it before changing direction and hitting him in the skull. 3 bullets remain in his body. He's talked with Vietnam veterans who counselled him on how to separate the pain in his arm from the rest of his body. How has it impacted me? I don't think there is any place in my life it hasn't impacted my family, Remington said as his voice broke. My hand feels like it's in a deep fryer at all times.
Well, I found
Remington.
I'll put this in the back chat. I can't turn my VPN off. Change my VPN to America. So if you can change your VPN to America, Hobbit, you can find out what date you came out of hospital.
I'll read that, yeah. Carl, you need to know. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what it is about today, but it's very tiring. I told him what you have in me as a friend, no matter what you did. Deputy, compared to what the manifesto says, that's a bit like, that. If I was this pastor, I wouldn't be saying that. Put it that way. I'd be like, oh, I'm glad he's getting the help he needs and we won't see him again. He's a danger. I won't be saying, oh, you're a friend. So, Odom, who earned a biochemistry degree from the University of Idaho, served in the Marines with distinction, was honorably discharged and had no prior criminal history. He said he was in meditation one day in 2014 when his life changed. He said he met a strange man on an airplane. Yeah, we said this bit already. Odom has served his country in Iraq and dreamed of becoming a pharmacist, offered Remington's family an apology. Words cannot reverse what happened, he said, but I'm truly sorry. Defense attorney Chris Schwartz said the antiquated and draconian Idaho criminal justice system is not set up to handle someone like Odom who suffers from schizophrenia.
Hey, Hobbit, pictures of his scars 3 months later are there.
Well, that's just when they've updated the suit. When he left hospital. And unfortunately...
Well, they're just weird black marks.
Unfortunately, the thread which talked about this, when he left the hospital the day after he's been shot 6 times, I only thought he'd been shot once, that thread's been swept up by the Jannies, who don't want me to read about schizophrenics. So I can't say what evidence Anon had.
Pastor Tim Remington shows the scars left by the bullets that entered his body on March 6, 2016. As he left the altar church in Coeur d'Alene, he said it's like the Lord just took every one of them and moved them out of the way, he said at his home. What a weird fucking comment.
Yeah, so I'm getting more websites. just sort of saying all the other things. But I want to find about this this thing. So, right, so this you mean the spokesman.com thing? Is that the
No,
one
the
you
one
can't
above.
access?
The one. So the
Oh
Spokane
yeah.
one. So the last one I put in has got pictures of the scars, which aren't scars. They're just like black lines. And then the one above says he's released from
Well,
hospital, but you can't read it unless
considering
you're in
how
America.
sophisticated their technology is, what they're doing there is they're basically just rubbing it in your face. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to say
Yeah.
this isn't a real bullet wound? How dare you be insensitive of me? I told you it feels like my hand's in the deep fryer all the time. Right, I'll just change my VPN settings. I'm hopefully back in the room.
Yeah, can hear you now.
Good. Right, so let's have a look at this article. The family of Pastor Tim Remington says that he is back in the hospital after suffering a stroke from a blood clot. Remington's family says the blood clot was in his
What
lungs.
date
And
is
those
this
two...
article?
This is from the 5th of 2016.
The 5th of what?
April the 5th. April the 5th, sorry.
Oh right, so
Yeah.
he was in hospital a couple of weeks then, because
Uh,
he got shot on March the 6th, 2016.
Pastor Tim Remington was shot multiple times in March outside of Altar Church in Coeur d'Alene. He remained in the ICU unit for weeks, recovering, and was recently released and allowed to go home.
A whole 4 weeks.
He's,
A whole 4
yep.
weeks he was in hospital.
Pastor Remington was released on hospital Tuesday, like according to hospital officials, and that's it. That's the thing. So I'm going to look at this other one as well, so I want to see like the extra things. Odom Manifesto explains how Martians took over his life. Oh, this is just talking about it. It's not.
Well, it's the picture. The lower one, it's the picture I want you to look at. So that's the shoulder where he was shot.
Yeah.
He had a wash before he took his fucking pictures, couldn't he?
Right, so I'll look at this now. Let's see. Well, that's just the skin suit. It's rendering issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hold on, I'll put the picture up for the benefit of the benefit of the home audience.
Do you want to like include the picture of the drawing as well of the things he'd seen?
Hold on, I'll just put this one up first. So that's it. That's the shoulder after the shooting.
These photographs are very well done.
What is it? But this is after 3 months. There's no. I mean, how long do stitches stay in after something like
that? So I had a mole removed.
Yeah.
And that was like the scar in it's like it's about an inch across, and I think that stayed in for about a month. Maybe it was a couple of weeks. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks, and then my dad removed the stitches because I didn't really want to go and visit a nurse to do it, so he picked the stitches out.
Oh, so it is. Do you think it's possible that he could have healed that well in? So this is April 2016, April 28th, 2016. So just under 2 months later, maybe a month and a half.
I'm sure, like Americans, they've got plenty of access to how long it takes for ooga boogas to recover from gunshot wounds. So they'll know how long to do it to make the fake seem real. But this is really annoying because, like, okay, I'm going to see if I can trawl through the archives and See what yeah, this is what I meant to say. So in the archives, we're talking about synthetic telepathy.
Yeah.
And so have you ever had this thing of, well, I was just thinking about that, I'm not talking to anybody about it, and now I'm getting adverts recommending me that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi, it's scanning your brainwaves and it's converting that into thoughts, and then it's using it. So you can't even think about, oh, I wish to do a Fed post against government officials, because you so much just think about it in range of wireless, and it will pick up your thoughts.
Yeah.
So maybe this is why we haven't had any real terrorism in the past. How long have we had wireless for? Because it got taken up pretty quickly, didn't it?
Did it take some sort of great leap? Because we had 7.7 and all that, but depending on what.
Yeah, but that was a false flag, wasn't it? It was government stuff. I mean, that's why they did bold and
some
brilliant.
More of the wisdom of Gemma Collins, Hobbit.
Not particularly, but go on.
You'd be forgiven for thinking the world of Gemma Collins was consumed with champagne, shopping sprees, and trips to Marbella. But on her latest podcast, the Towie Diva decided to delve into the murky world of internet conspiracies. Gemma confessed to her ardent listeners she's a firm believer in the dark, long-running theory that lizard people live among us. Why does it have to be a dark, long-running theory? Why can't it not just be a theory? The language in these things is always interesting, isn't it? Admitting it was a little weird, Gemma said she was fascinated by the belief that shapeshifters really do exist, and added her own spin on the tale. Gemma, 39, admitted she thinks the lizard people have gone undetected for so long because they've been using a secret network of underground tunnels, also allegedly used by Queen Elizabeth to scurry about. There's been so many reports. There are different kinds of species living in the UK and around the world, explained Gemma. I want to meet you. I want to touch you. I want to smell. Is that the one I've already read?
I want to talk like you.
No. This is
walk
the same.
with you.
Yeah.
Shooba-dooba-doo.
This is a different one, but it's basically the same text, I think. As the international legend goes, lizard people from the constellation Draco have been visiting Earth since ancient times. In a rather scary visual, the lizards are said to be extremely tall, have retractable wings, and can also come over from other constellations, including Sirius and Orion. And they've apparently been breeding with humans, meaning that half human, half lizards are living among us. Gemma is not the only celeb to confess they think there's some truth in the wild theory. Former footballer David Icke is also a believer. Icke has sold thousands of books claiming humanity is actually under the control of dinosaur-like alien reptiles who must consume human blood to maintain their human appearance. So who are these lizard people? If you were to believe some dark internet theories, I love the way they try and set up people's thinking. They don't
Tutorializing.
Yeah, they don't report anymore, do they? They're trying to tell you what to think, aren't they? Madonna, Katy Perry, and Angelina Jolie are all said to be secret lizard folk. Not Katy Perry, but she's got nice tits. While Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and the late Michael Jackson have also been accused, they are said to be ambitious and successful people, which is to be expected with world domination being the ultimate goal. Other giveaways are said to include green eyes, good eyesight and hearing, red hair, scars, low blood pressure, a love of space, and a sense of not belonging to the human race. Also, watch out for a smile that shows the bottom teeth, eyes that change size, or have large pupils, and a general lizardy vibe. There you go.
So I'm trying to find more about this, and one topic it said, and this is talking about how they can control people like Carl Oldham, or attempt to control. It's transdimensional as well. They're talking about using scalar waves to do this, and actually, this reminds me of something I saw in Tomorrow's World, which I'll see if I can find. It's transdimensional as well. The scalar waves go into hyperspace and resonate with DNA and interface with consciousness of target individuals. By the way, DNA with its structure, makes a very good antenna, so it is capable of receiving EM fields, and there is possibly evidence to suggest that biophotons, which is light emitted by living creatures, can be received and sent by DNA. Hyperspace is a mind over matter consciousness in field singularity, a mind of God. The operators of the telepathic internet have access to reality domination cores as well. It's all electromagnetic. This is what Carl Odom experienced. I imagine what they're saying about this telepathic internet might also be called the Akashic Record. Oh yeah, the thing I saw in Tomorrow's World. Did you ever used to watch it in the 90s?
Yeah, I used to watch Tomorrow's World.
Do you remember them showing this thing about you use an ultrasonic beam to direct sound, and then when you press the sound to someone's head, they hear it, nobody else hears it. And they're saying, oh, this could be great because like it'll be even more discreet than headphones, only you get to hear the noise.
No,
So it's only once... Oh, okay, well... The ultrasonic one, they're saying the difficulty with it is you can't really transmit bass frequencies through it because the ultrasonic carrier wave hits against a solid object, in this case being your skull, and then you hear the sound inside you. What they're also saying is that if they've identified anybody dangerous in the crowd, like a football stadium, they can target a beam at the head saying, like, we're watching you.
Oi,
thought,
you,
okay.
stop it.
But, like, how would they know someone's being... They're basically just, like, targeting individuals.
Yeah.
And...
what do you think? Do you remember that time Obama killed that fly? So it's like reasons to believe lizard people exist. The US president has an uncanny ability to kill flies, a skill only a lizard would have. Do you remember that one? During a CNBC interview?
I do remember when he caught a fly out of midair, and there's all those flies around him, which just... And then the other thing about, which, sorry to be a bit vulgar about this, but there was this, when he got inaugurated, there was a Washington, D.C. gay sex toilet party to celebrate his inauguration. And I always kept thinking about that and how flies get around him, so I just feel like he's a representative of Beelzebub.
It doesn't say who it is, but it says in here, a Twitter bot caught a member of the US House of Representatives editing an article about lizard people, denying reptilian allegations.
Oh, this could be image. I'll copy this image here. So you can read what I'm about to read.
Okay.
A few months ago, former CIA officer Jim Semivan, that's his name. What your name's Semivan, made a shocking statement saying there's a whole other reality that surrounds us. We just simply don't have the ability to see or interact with. He had worked with the CIA for 25 years before Tom DeLonghi's to the Stars Academy with other ex-government insiders. The To the Stars Academy is an organization that claims to have been responsible for a release of the now famous Pentagon UFO videos. Did we cover the Pentagon UFO videos? The Pentagon released a bunch of UFO stuff.
Well, no, there was only really the Tic Tac, weren't there? I don't think there was that many that came out, was there?
He described how he joined the CIA and acquired years of specialized training in spycraft. Since the CIA operatives under the need-to-know premise, Semivan was not specifically informed of any UFO-related study.
Moppy D says need to mention a lizard is oddly quiet tonight.
Yeah, where is he?
Oh no, he's been found out.
Since the CIA operatives... Oh yeah, they said that. Despite the fact that CIA analysts... Hey, if you want a fun thing, whilst I read out the statement, have a drink every time I say CIA. Yeah. So I won't repeat that bit again. The analyst Kit Green was well known for exploring the paranormal. According to him, it doesn't say whether we're talking about Mr. Semivan or Mr. Green now. there is a force out there that can control our environment, that can put thoughts into our heads. In fact, Mr. Semivan has previously stated that UFOs sighted by the Navy are from another world. He made shocking assertions regarding unidentified flying objects in an interview with James Ian Dolly, saying that I think it's a capital IANDOLI. Look at the image there. It's the third paragraph. The back chat.
Third paragraph, did you say?
I think it is. Yes, it is.
Yan Dolly? I'd say it'd be Yan, wouldn't it? Yan Dolly.
Well, I'm looking. The first three letters form the name Ian.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be Ian Dolly, would it? So I think you'd probably pronounce it Yan. I think Yan Dolly.
Well, you might, but
we're both stabbing
in the
dark at it anyway.
Yeah. Third thing, it's saying that the occurrence can be startling, especially to children. When we started TTSA, we had the discussions about this all the time. Are we sure we want to disclose this information?
Hobbit.
I mean,
is it really not aliens and demons, but it's just paedophiles? Could it be just paedophiles?
What if it's paedophiles, but there's also demons, and they come from another dimension?
What if they're paedophiles, but they just pretend they're demons or aliens?
What if there's like paedophiles that are pretending they're demons, but demons are still real? What if the demons are working through the paedophiles to live vicariously, hurting children?
What if the demons are really trying to stop all this and they're getting slandered by the paedophiles?
No, I don't believe that. Demons are evil. When we started TTSA, we had discussion about... I mean, are we going to scare 8-year-olds? Well, why are they talking about children and UFO disclosure? What? There's some non-sequitur. I don't... What the fuck, man? Anyway, I had some friends who were like...
Kids alone.
Who were like, oh, my daughter... By the way, that somebody did like a parody song saying like, hey, nonce, leave them kids alone. Do you remember that song?
Yeah.
That song was played on the infamous Brutus in Marriage thing, which you can, if you want, you can have it on my channel. You click on my name, whatever, and if you type Brutus in Marriage, it'll be in Fremen on the Sand. So if you want to hear the whole full context of it, because it's very important to have the context, Brutus in Marriage. I'm not saying what he did, because of Susan. Now. Yeah. Fuck's sake.
Susan I wish I could that sort of behaviour.
I wish I could talk like I talk to you in the pub. I really like this, having to constantly watch what I say. I find quite exhausting. All right. I had some friends who were like, oh, my daughter wants to know all about UFOs. Can we talk to you about that? And I said, no, I'm not going to talk to you about that. What I'm going to tell her or him, these 10, 11-year-olds... Could such a fucking... Is this King Cobra JFS? Is John Semivan like, I hate sickos more than I love Ozzy Osbourne? That's what's up, YouTube. What am I going to tell her or him, these 10, 11-year-olds? Could such a reality kill them psychologically for the rest of their lives? Yes, that there is a force out there that can control our environment and put thoughts into our heads. They can lie to you, deceive you, and that you are not in control of your life. Tell this to a 12-year-old.
I'm not in favour of telling the kids this kind of shit, are you?
No, I don't. Well succinct. But at the same time, I mean, kids find out about demons and how. Like, I knew about that when I was a kid.
Yeah, but you ease them in. You want them thinking, oh, it's just a book, it's not real, don't you? You want them to have their childhood innocence for at least a period, don't you?
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, you still got to tell kids that there are consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
You got to find some.
You got to give them the Cliff Notes version, aren't you? You don't tell them they're paedophile aliens that that are senators and kind of shit like that. Just keep them away from that part. Let them know there are demons.
Yeah, kids don't need to know that Mexicans are Aztecs and they still skin people alive and nail them to crosses to this day. That's
Yeah.
there's only so much you need to you need to do. Now, is there anything else I can find? I mean, yeah, David Icke has talked about this before. Other people have talked about this before. I mean, there are people that this is something I don't think Claire Cole would ever be able to understand or appreciate. The fact that when you get into certain places, you're dealing with agents which aren't strictly human, and when I'm saying that there is no political solution, that this is a spiritual battle, I am talking about a battle between heaven and hell, which is being fought in this world.
Well, this is, to go back to 2012. This is what 2012 was about. It was our spiritual awakening, wasn't it? Maybe 2012 was just the start of the battle.
I think, but it's not the end of the world physically, but it is a changing of the times. It's so it's the end of one era, and we've gone into a different era because I mean, you remember the world before 2012. It was getting there, but it wasn't as bad as what we have now.
No, it seemed to take a great leap forward after that, didn't it? Or backwards, whatever, however you want to term it.
I mean, there is a certain protected class now where if you were to talk about them in less than flattering things, that's a hate speech. So I'll just say that
if you merely show everybody the contract they offered you, which is derisory, then you're literally killing them, aren't you?
No, I'm referring to the beautiful, stunning, and brave protected minority,
right.
as opposed to the we have a right to exist minority. These people in 2012, it was funny. And now when Eddie Izzard goes on stage, nobody's laughing.
Yeah.
And if they do laugh, then they're shot behind the stage. And children die.
Should we do some unexplained? This is getting rather dark.
It is, isn't it? I mean, look, this is like saying I'm just trying to say, like, when I'm saying all this stuff, like get right with Jesus and stuff. I know it's cringe because I see Americans doing it all the time, and Americans are cringe. But seriously, Jesus is the light and the way. No one gets to the Father through him. He is the Savior. And you're going to need all the spiritual help you can come in the years to follow. Like, don't make the mistake of Carl Odom and just go, there is no God, it's all atheist. Because then you'll lose and you'll be susceptible to these demons. So anyway, unexplained mysteries.
Go on then, Hobby. Do you want to talk about this one? NASA is building a nuclear rocket to get into Mars in just 45 days. Does this prove that both space and nuclear is not real?
Well, I read about this before, and to summarise it, use a nuclear reactor to get hydrogen gas to be very hot, and I think it's different from an ion drive. Let me just remind myself what an ion drive is, and I can't find Carl Odom on Snopes. I was going to see if there's if Snopes had anything to say about him. Ion drive. Let's have a look what an ion drive is, because what they're talking about is a nuclear thing. So an ion drive or ion engine.
Well, they're calling it advanced nuclear thermal propulsion.
Yeah, but they would say some bullshit like that, wouldn't they?
So how do you propel through heat then? Is that what they're saying? They're going to use the heat to propel it?
They got compressed hydrogen. They heat it up. Turns into a gas. Zooms out.
Where's the nuclear part then?
Oh, they got a nuclear reactor on board.
Oh, right, okay then.
Yeah. But an ion drive is a form of electric propulsion used for spacecraft. It creates thrust by accelerating ions using electricity. An ion thruster ionizes a neutral gas by extracting some electrons out of atoms, creating a cloud of positive ions. Right. So that's different. So what they're talking about is not an ion drive. It's literally just like make gas hot by forcing it through a nuclear reactor to work as coolant. An ion drive is like if you ionize particles, then they exert
Yeah, and there's absolutely no details
force.
on it as well. It's big words, big words, big words, but they're not actually telling you how it works.
Yeah, that's why I read it before. Why was I read? I don't know where I read about it. But point being is, yeah, if you heat things very hot, then you can make a jet out of it. So that's what they're doing. Yeah.
The Doomsday. Do you read the Doomsday Clock one? And I've got a related article from the Fortean Times.
Yeah. Shit libs are basically saying, "Oh, look how Russia is bad." The Doomsday Clock.
Did the Watchmen film remind them that the Doomsday Clock existed?
Well, they're basically people. Whenever there's like a nuclear happening or nuclear maybe possibly happening, it's literally just saying, "Oh, look, Russia's bad. They're pushing us to the brink of nuclear war." Russia did this, for no reason whatsoever. Russia are threatening to use nukes. There's
Russia
no justification for this.
Russia pissed my trousers and shit in my pockets.
I will say one thing about Russia. Like, I like the propaganda coming from Russia. However, why do they have a higher rates of divorce and HIV infections than the Western countries? Like, the murder rate's on par with Nigeria. So, something's going wrong in Russia. I don't think they're...
The Ukrainians know better because 2 Ukrainian soldiers...
No, the Ukrainians are pure evil.
2 Ukrainian soldiers... Well, this might prove it. 2 Ukrainian soldiers found themselves in hot water after they brought a rocket-propelled grenade launcher to a fun fair in Cherniv, northern Ukraine. Can you guess how it turned out, Hobbit?
Hilarious consequences.
As part of a wartime morale-boosting effort and allowed a 10-year-old boy to handle the weapon, he accidentally fired the grenade.
Hilarious consequences.
He accidentally fired the grenade. Imagine it's just like Mr. Bean, but funny.
Hang on. I've seen this film. It's called Falling Down. You know the bit where he gets like the rocket launcher from the army surplus guy? Oh, and that was like the only time like he's actually like everyone else he's just like, well, I'm just trying to get by. But the only time he actually enjoys killing somebody is the Nazi army surplus guy because he's like, oh, you're evil, and I'm just like a boomer. I believe in individual liberty. Yeah. I like Falling Down, by the way, but that bit scene is a bit weak. So,
anyway, injuring 15 people, including himself and his brother, and caused panic amongst fairgoers who thought it was a Russian attack.
If you want to see footage of this, watch Falling Down, where he goes back to where they're doing the roadworks, and he hands the little black boy the rocket launcher, who fires the rocket, zooms through the tunnel, and then escapes and then blows up the JCB digger at the end.
After world chess champion Magnus Carlsen was beaten by rank outsider Hans Niemann in the $350,000 Sinkfield Cup tournament, he withdrew from the event with a cryptic tweet seeming to imply that Niemann had cheated. Speculation as to how he might have done so was rife, including suggestion that Niemann had been fed moves via radio-linked vibrating beads hidden in his anus.
Oh, yeah. No, that was like... that was a weird, like... story as well. And the other thing I was thinking to myself is like, how do you cheat at chess? Do you have like a computer telling you alternate moves? Is that it?
Yeah, it's like, how do you cheat at chess? So like, why isn't the bloke who's better at chess doing it? Unless they have a panel of people. And how do you get a panel of people to decide on a chess move?
I'll catch you guys later on.
See you later, dude.
But a weird bit of feedback there.
Yeah, that's Garalt going. How about this one then? More chess. During a chess match in Moscow, a 7-year-old boy had his finger broken by the robot he was playing against. The video shows the robot taking... Have you seen this then, Hobbit?
Well, I think a little bit of context in this.
Yeah.
The boy made a move when it wasn't his turn, and the
Yeah.
robot was like, "No, fuck you, it's my turn," and grabbed his hand.
Yeah, that's what I
So
was
if
gonna
the
say.
boy had stopped being a little bratty shit and just waited for the robot to take his turn, you know, it's like, oh, I had a chess match with a chimp, and then I reached for a piece, and the chimp grabbed my hand and tore the skin off.
How about this one then? A drunk man staged a protest outside a Premier Inn in Bournemouth, Dorset, after staff wouldn't let him into what he thought was his room. He lay down in the street and refused to move until police arrived and explained there were 5 Premier Inns in Bournemouth and he was outside the wrong one.
There I was hoping you were going to say he did a dirty protest, but
he
no.
did a stupid protest.
He did a stupid, like, no, this is my place, I'm not getting out of it. Speaking of doing a protest, do you remember that thing there was a video posted in the 37 a while ago, and the woman's like, oh, I'm a fitness influencer on TikTok, and you're in my shot, and the bloke's like,
that's brilliant, that one, isn't it?
I sympathise 100% with the man, like, you know, I know other people sided with a woman in that case, but it's just like, look, he's a man. He just wants to sit in there. He doesn't want to participate in your thing. He's not going to move. So if you're just going to be annoying about it, it's like, all right, well, in that case, I'm sat here. I'm sure your audience won't mind seeing me here. And it's like, he is being unreasonable, but at the same time, she was just like not taking no for an answer. She repeated... At least 5 times I've asked you nicely. Well, it's not asking nicely if you ask repeatedly and you won't accept the first no. That's called harassment, woman. You're harassing that man. He just wants to be left alone. He's entitled to sit in the park. It's not a private venue. It's a park. You can't just tell people to move on. You don't have the authority to do that. Fuck you, cunt. Fuck that bitch. No, that man did nothing wrong. In fact... He had it within his rights to say, "Look, I'm going to defend myself now.
Yeah.
If you don't stop harassing me, yeah. Look, just like Israel has a right to exist, that man has a right to his peace and quiet. He should have punted her in the front bottom and done a titty twister. That would have taught her what for. Stupid bitch. Oh God, I'm so annoyed about that. I really am.
This might be quite funny because it's whimsical. In Cairns, Australia, 6-year-old Kobe Prender was waiting for training to start at his under-8s football club when he was pounced on and beaten up by 2 wallabies. They pinned him down and have given him a real good gouge across the top of his head, said club spokesman Damon Thomas. They just kept attacking and jumping on top of him. Oh, he should have stuck his thumb up his ass.
Oh, he really don't like it.
Also,
I need to start watching some Steve Irwin videos. That guy is actually a top cobber from what I've been told.
The course of the Thames has been changed at Hammersmith in West London by a new island that has formed in the river made entirely of wet wipes that have been flushed down the loo and discharged into the river with sewage. The island is about the size of 2 tennis courts and more than 1 metre deep. Wipes that contain plastic don't disintegrate and also form 90% of the fatbergs that block sewers, acting as a matrix that binds the fat together.
Here's a thought I had today. So, a lot of England has limestone deposits, which is chalk, right? And even Dover's famous for this. The White Cliffs are chalk, and that chalk is caused by sedimentary deposits of plankton corpses. So at one point, all of that landmass was underwater. So how did the sea not be the sea? I mean, Fraser, if you're around, you should get on.
I thought it was going upward. I thought the sea was getting higher and higher and higher because the ice caps are melting a bit.
Yes, because as I've seen on many summer's day when the ice cubes in my drink melt, it overflows out of the glass and floods the table.
We just had really massive ice caps back then. No, all the ice caps had gone if that was underwater.
I don't know where this how it is that all this sedimentary sea deposits are on our soil, and also where did
the dinosaur episode that was found in Rutland, wasn't it?
Ooh. cheeky girls. Ooh, cheeky boys. Ooh, cheeky. Sorry,
No, it's
I saw this flash.
We are the cheeky boys.
Yeah, but the refrain in it is ooh, cheeky boys. Ooh, cheeky girls. Ooh, cheeky. Yeah, it's literally the refrain in the song. And the reason I know that is there was this Flash animation 20 years ago called Walking with Dinosaurs. And it was just badly animated Flash animation. It just had this little bit from the Cheeky Girls going over and over again. And it didn't actually have anything to do with dinosaurs. It had this giant bee and I forget the rest of it now. It don't matter.
Oh shit! I'll do this one. We'll do this one as the last one, unless you want to do a bit more. NASA stepped in to block the sale of some unusual items being auctioned by RR Auction in Boston. 3 cockroach carcasses and 40 milligrams of moon dust, which had an estimated sale price of $400,000. The dust was part of the 21.3 kilograms of lunar samples brought back to Earth by Apollo 11, and it had originally been
cockroaches.
Yeah, you remember this, don't you? I can't find the story anymore. It's one of those lost stories. It had originally
Alphabet
been given...
Cat. Just to respond to you, the UK does have some desalination plants, and that the Thames estuary, because Londoners are thirsty, and so they get desalinated water.
So, been given to entomologist Marion Brooks at the University of Minnesota to feed various fish, small creatures, and insects to see if it was toxic. The dust being auctioned had passed through cockroaches, and both had been preserved. Passed through Hobbit. Had been preserved by Dr. Brooks, who kept them on display at home. NASA, though, contended that all Apollo samples belonged to them, and no one had permission to keep them after analysis, stepping in to demand a halt to the auction. The auction house was unimpressed, though, saying, out of abundance of caution, we withdrew the lot. We'll embargo the sale while the government and the seller work it out. So how much after testing do they own it? What after the cockroaches shit it out as well, then? Is that what they're saying?
You have to imagine your job. You know, you've got your degrees and whatever, and you're there sifting out cockroach poo, and because NASA says we need that back, I'd say fuck it. Look, here's the cockroaches, their poo and all. Just stick it in a box and send it to NASA. Would you rather do a dirty protest or have $400,000? Which is the easier? How much work do I have to go for the $400,000?
You just have to wait until NASA have worked it out, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know. I could do with $400,000, so let's go with that.
How about this one then? Should we finish on this one? After a 2-year absence due to COVID, the 12th annual World Gravy Wrestling Championships returned to the Rose and Bowl pub in Rossendale, Lancashire in August. The competition sees the wrestlers compete in 2-minute bouts in a giant pool of gravy, with points being scored for fancy dress, entertainment value, and wrestling ability. Basically, people come in fancy dress, then they wrestle in the gravy and get eliminated as the day goes on.
Do they have awards for the sexiest wrestler?
I don't know. What, you hoping to win that next year then, Hobbit?
I like women wrestling in mud, and not sure about baked beans or other foodstuffs, but
yeah,
I've watched a bit of.
Just a bit weird, isn't it?
I've enjoyed a bit of mud wrestling.
Yeah.
In my time.
Very good. Right, so is that us done?
Yep. And remember, if you're thinking about being atheist, don't.
Some people are saying they're having nightmares. Don't have nightmares. They really are alien lizard people kidnapping children and murdering them.
If you're thinking about ending it all, don't.
If you are going to commit suicide, don't commit suicide.
Yeah. If you've been affected by any of the events in tonight's episode of Balamory, you can contact the BBC bereavement line.
Night all.
Good night.